All right, we'll come back into Senate Finance into order. And we're going to start with work session. And we're going to do a little bit of work session. And just so you know, we may roll some of these bills. We may roll some of the work session. We're just going to see what we get done and what we have, because we have a lot obviously going on. All right. All right, we will start with Senate Bill 45 on our work session. And with that being said, please go ahead, Mr. Thorley, when you're ready.
Kathy Crockett with the Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 45 was heard on March 28th in this committee. It provides that the personal needs allotment retained by Medicaid recipients residing in a skilled nursing facility is not less than that retained by Medicaid recipients residing in a residential group facility. This would effectively increase the personal needs allotment for Medicaid recipients residing in skilled nursing facilities from $35 to $149 per month, which would increase the amount that Medicaid would need to pay these facilities. The act becomes effective on passage and approval for sections 1 and 2 and January 1st, 2024 for all the other purposes. The bill was presented by the president of the Silver-Haired Legislative Forum, accompanied by LCB research staff. There were no amendments presented at the bill hearing. 2 individuals were in support of the legislation. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Department of Health and Human Services Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy identified an impact of $1.6 million, of which $309,374 would be general fund in fiscal year 2024, and $3.2 million, of which $635,388 would be general fund in fiscal year 2025. If the committee would like to take action on this bill, an appropriate action would be to amend and do pass to add funding to the bill to support the costs.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll accept a motion.
I'd so move to amend and do pass with funding.
Thank you, Senator Wynn. Second by Senator Titus. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And I'll give the floor statement to Senator Wynn. I didn't want to insult anybody. Okay, we will move on to Senate Bill 54.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record. LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 54, first reprint, revises provisions relating to elections. This was heard on May 18th in this committee. The bill requires the Secretary of State to at least once every 2 years prepare, maintain, and publish an elections procedures manual. The bill also requires the Secretary of State to submit the most recent version of the elections procedure manual to the Legislative Commission for approval, not less frequency than every 4 years. The bill also requires the Secretary of State to develop and provide a training course related to election procedures to each county and city clerk, and the bill requires each county and city clerk to attend this training course and authorizes a county or city clerk to require any deputy or employee of the clerk's office whose duties relate to elections to attend the training course. Lastly, the bill requires the Secretary of State to reimburse each county or city the per diem allowance and travel expenses for attending the training course, and then requires that this reimbursement be paid from the Reserve for Statutory Contingency account. The effective date is passage and approval. The bill was presented by Senator Orenshaw and Chief Deputy Secretary of State Gabriel DeCara. Testimony was provided, before we get to that, the fiscal impact, the Secretary of State's office submitted a fiscal note indicating a fiscal impact related to preparation and printing of the procedures manual, as well as costs related to paying for the local election officials to attend the training. However, costs related to attending the training would be reimbursable from the Reserve for Statutory Contingency account. So the only cost to the general fund would be $8,104 in FY24 and $3,242 in FY25 related to the election procedures manual. Testimony was provided in support from the Campaign Legal Center and Silver State Voices. Opposition testimony was provided by the Independent American Party, Barbara Jones, and the Nevada Republican Party. And there was no testimony provided in neutral. There were no amendments discussed during the hearing. If the committee would like to move this bill with the funding that I mentioned for the Elections Procedures Manual, the motion would be to amend and do pass as amended with the additional approximately 8,000 in year one and 3,000 in year two for the manual.
Thank you very much. And with that, I would ask if there are any questions. Seeing none, I'll accept a motion.
I'd so move to amend and do pass with the funding as stated by staff.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn. I'll have a second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Senator Titus, thank you very much. Motion passes. And I will give this floor statement to Senator Orenshaw, and thank you for joining us this evening. All right, we will go on to Senate Bill 103.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 103 was heard in committee on May 20th. It revises the membership, powers, and duties of the Sentencing Commission and requires the Commission to conduct an interim study concerning the sentences imposed for misdemeanor offenses in the state. The bill becomes effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of performing any preparatory administrative tasks that are necessary to carry out the provisions of this act, and on July 1st, 2023 for all other purposes. Testimony was provided by the Director of the Commission on Sentencing Policy, and she noted that the bill was from the interim Joint Standing Interim Committee on Judiciary. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Department of Sentencing Policy submitted a fiscal note indicating a cost of $71,237 in fiscal year 2024 and $96,577 in fiscal year 2025 for a new management analyst 2 position to help collect and organize data. The department confirmed on May 17th that the position would still be needed if the bill passed, even though the Money Committees added an additional management analyst position to the agency's budget that was not recommended by the governor in closing the budget. There was testimony and support provided by the administrative offices of the courts as well as one other individual. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral. An amendment was proposed that creates a subcommittee within the Sentencing Commission to allow for the study of misdemeanors, and it would allow the subcommittee to create working groups. The amendment should be available in Nellis for members' review. If the committee wishes to take action on the bill, an appropriate motion would be to amend and do pass to add the funding, or choose to not add the funding and have the agency approach the interim finance committee for a contingency account allocation if it is not able to absorb the workload with the additional staff approved by the money committees.
Thank you very much. Question, Senator Wynn.
I'm sorry, did I hear you correctly? I remember that we had added an additional position at closing to this, and are they indicating they need this additional position as well?
Yes, that is what they have indicated to fiscal staff.
I'll take a moment.
All right, with that, I will accept a motion.
Also move to, is it amend and do pass? I'm sorry. No. It is. Amend and do pass without the funding, and we'll ask them to come to IFC if they need that position.
Thank you very much. Second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on the, go ahead, please, Senator Gant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure we keep track of everything that we set aside because we think maybe they need to come to IFC. Let's just kind of keep a rolling total of that so that we don't get overwhelmed with that because we're kind of passing it with the assumption that they really don't need it, but if they do, it could add up to something.
Thank you very much, and we'll do that. Any additional discussion? All right, with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and Senator Harris, would you like that? All right, Senate Bill 145, when you're ready.
Senate Bill 145, Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 145, first reprint was presented in Senate Finance on May 16th by Senator Lang. The bill revises the existing treatment of administrative penalties and investigative costs recovery monies by requiring the monies to be deposited to a separate account to pay for added staff for the Office of the Labor Commissioner, and revises the administrative penalties that may be imposed in instances of employee misclassification. Additionally, the bill revises and clarifies provisions related to sharing of otherwise confidential information between the offices of the Labor Commissioner, the Division of Industrial Relations, the Employment Securities Division of DETR, and the Department of Taxation, and the AG's office pertaining to employee misclassification. Lastly, the bill eliminates the Task Force on Employee Misclassification. The effective date on the bill is July 1, 2023. There were no fiscal notes submitted on the bill. However, fiscal staff did identify a likely fiscal impact as a result of Section 1's change to existing law that would allow all administrative penalties and investigative costs collected to be deposited in a separate account, which the Labor Commissioner could use for additional staff. That money currently goes to the general fund, and estimate based on FY 2022 collections, the bill and the first reprint version would reduce the general fund by approximately $381,000 each year. There is an amendment on the bill, Amendment 672 from the sponsor, Senator Lang. The amendment removes the provision that would allow the Labor Commissioner to keep this fee revenue in their budget and to use it to fund positions. And that is also, there is one change, one word change to willful. Where was that? Somewhere there's a willful. Oh, here it is. So in section 3 of the bill, on the second offense, there has to be the word willfully was added before misclassification. So to clarify that the offense is subject to a fine when there is willful misclassification. There was no testimony provided in support, no testimony in opposition. The Labor Commissioner testified in neutral. The Labor Commissioner's office has indicated to fiscal staff with the amendment 672, to remove the language about keeping the investigative costs in the budget for positions, that there would be no fiscal impact on the office. If the committee wishes to move this bill, appropriate motion would be to amend and do pass with Amendment 672. Happy to answer any questions that the committee might have.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Senator Gorkachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, I'm still not clear on this. Do they get to, as far as the fines, can they hold those in their account?
Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. With the amendment, it removes the new language that would have went in the bill, thereby maintaining the current language, which says that money goes to the general fund.
Okay.
It would, so status quo with the amendment would continue.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I don't like an agency be able to fund their own program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, I believe I'd accept a motion for amend and do pass.
I'd so amend and do pass.
Thank you, Senator Wynn. A second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on that motion? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Always happy to support a bill that eliminates a task force.
Yes, I understand, Senator Harris. Thank you very much. And with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries, and I believe Senator Lang is the sponsor, so we'll ask you to do the floor statement if you're okay with that. All right, we will go on to Senate Bill 232.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 232 was heard in committee on May 11th. This is the first reprint of the bill. It requires a state plan for Medicaid to cover postpartum care for 12 months following the end of pregnancy. The bill is effective upon passage and approval for preparatory administrative tasks and on January 1st, 2024 for all other purposes. The Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy and the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services submitted fiscal notes on the bill. The Division of Welfare and Supportive Services indicates a cost of $667,300, of which $66,730 would be general fund over the biennium. The Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy submitted a fiscal note indicating a total cost of $14 million, of which $1.4 million would be general fund over the biennium. The bill was presented by Senator Cannizzaro. Support was, testimony was given by Battleborn Progress. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral, and no amendments were presented on the bill. If the committee wishes to take action on the bill, an appropriate motion would be to amend and do pass as amended to add a general fund appropriations to support the cost associated with the bill.
Thank you very much. Little did we know on May 11th that we would be sitting here in that same exact position. There we go. So thank you for Senator Cannizzaro for putting your bill to good use. And with that, I will accept a motion.
I'd so move to amend, was it amend? I'm sorry. They're all blowing. Amend and do pass with the money added.
I'll take, Senator Wynn, thank you very much. A second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on that? And from Senator Titus, it's a good bill. And so that's great. And thank you very much. You get the floor statement. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. And Senator, we'll give the floor statement to Senator Cannizzaro. Thank you very much. And next, we have Senate Bill 240 when you're ready.
Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 240, first reprint was heard on May 23rd in this committee and was presented by Senator Neal and Darian Harris with Advantage Capital. The bill as amended requires the Department of Business and Industry to certify an additional $170 million in qualified equity investments under the Nevada New Markets Jobs Act on or after July 1, 2024. The tax credits earned against the insurance premium tax for these investments may not be taken until July 1, 2026. The bill further amends the Nevada New Markets Jobs Act by requiring the Department of Business and Industry to certify $30 million in impact qualified equity investments to qualified active low-income community businesses as specified in the bill on or after July 1, 2024. In exchange for the impact qualified equity investment, insurance companies are entitled to receive a credit against the insurance premium tax equal to 75% of the total impact qualified equity investment, which may be taken against the tax in equal installments over a 5-year period. The first portion of the tax credit may not be taken against the tax until July 1, 2026. Since this is a tax credit, there would be an impact on the general fund. However, the impact would not occur until the 2025-27 biennium, as they could not be taken until July 1, 2026. There was a fiscal note from the Department of Business and Industry indicating that a management analyst 2 position would be needed to certify, track, and manage and report on impact qualified equity investments, or QEIs, versus the regular QEIs. The estimated cost for this position and operating costs is in the fiscal note, approximately $103,000 in FY24 and approximately $100,000 in FY25. There was testimony in support provided by Advantage Capital Partners and the Vegas Chamber. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral. There is a proposed amendment to this from the sponsor that was indicated at the bill hearing to Section 7, Sub 1A, to add additional NAICS codes for retail trade. So those are NAICS codes 44 and 45. So that would be the only amendment, just to add those 2 additional sectors to that portion of the bill. If the committee wishes to move the bill forward, the motion would be to, and if they wish to address the fiscal impact to the Department of Business and Industry, the motion would be to amend and do pass with the amendment to the NAICS codes proposed by the sponsor, and to add general fund of approximately $100,000 in each year. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
All right, any questions? Senator Titus.
I don't have a question, Madam Chair, but I do have a comment. I did not support this in 2019. However, hearing the testimony and the investment and the return on the investment, I'm going to support this. I think it was good for the communities, and I think it's a good thing to support. Thank you.
Appreciate that comment. Thank you very much. All right, any additional comments? All right, with that, I will accept a motion.
I'd so move to amend and do pass
Thank you very much.
with the money added.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn. A second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and we will give Senator Neal the floor statement. And with that, we will go to Senate Bill 276.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 276, reprint 1, was heard in committee on May 20th. The bill creates new licensing and regulatory requirements for debt buyers and defines such agencies as collection agencies, which require oversight by the Department of Business and Industry under current law. The bill, among other things, requires a collection agency to display certain information on the internet, establishes certain remote working location requirements and employment standards, revises licensure, application, record-keeping, annual reporting, permitting, and certification requirements, revises certain domestic provisions and provisions relating to bonding, removes certain permitting fees and examination requirements, repeals certain foreign provisions, and prohibits certain actions and provides for related penalties. Sections 1 through 48, 50, 51, and 52 become effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of adopting any regulations and performing other preparatory tasks, and on October 1st, 2023 for all other purposes. Section 49 of the Act, related to identifying information displayed on a website, becomes effective on the date on which the Commissioner of Financial Institutions notifies the Governor and the Director of the Legislative Council Bureau that the nationwide multi-state licensing system and registry has sufficient capabilities to allow the Commissioner to carry out the provisions of Chapter 347 Statutes of Nevada, 2021 at page 2030. The testimony was presented by Senator Lang, accompanied by the General Counsel to RMAI, who represents debt buyers. There was no testimony in support or opposition. There was testimony by one individual in neutral. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Division of Financial Institutions projects approximately 200 new licensees if the bill were to be approved, which would generate a fee revenue of approximately $502,000 in fiscal year 2024 and $381,000 in fiscal year 2025. There would also be operational costs totaling about $224,000 in fiscal year 2024 and $287,000 in fiscal year 2025. Therefore, it appears that the agency would be able to support the operating costs with the additional fee revenue, so it would not be necessary to add any funding to the bill. Regarding amendments, there was an amendment presented by HOA Collections LLC regarding Section 10, subsection 2, to clarify that certain requirements apply to a collection agency working from a remote location, which at the bill hearing it was indicated that it was not thought the amendment was needed. However, LCB Legal did advise fiscal staff that if the intent is for that section to apply for collection agents working for a remote location, they believe that that amendment would be necessary to provide that clarification. If the committee wishes to take action on the bill, it may consider amending and passing the bill with no funding.
Thank you very much. And we need just a 1-minute recess. Okay, we need to roll this particular bill until tomorrow. We have an amendment that apparently is not there. So we will roll Senate Bill 276 to tomorrow, and we will reconvene on this. And with that, we will go to Senate Bill 301.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 301, first reprint, was heard in this committee on May 17th. It was presented by Senator Lang. The measure in its first reprint revises the definition of a worker employed on a public works project and thus eligible to be paid the prevailing wage. This definition would now include a worker who is employed by delivering or removing construction material or structures to or from the site of a public work, and two, an employee who is necessary in the execution of the contract for the public work and is also deemed to be employed on the public work for purposes of the payment of prevailing wage. This bill further defines construction material or structures to mean aggregate, asphalt, and concrete. The effective date of the measure, Section 1, would become effective upon passage and approval for the purposes of adopting any regulations and performing any other preparatory administrative tasks that are necessary to carry out the provisions of this act, and on January 1st, 2024 for all other purposes. The Department of Transportation submitted an unsolicited fiscal note on the first reprint version, the current version of the bill, indicating a cost of approximately $43,000 in FY24 and $79,000 in FY25 for personnel and operating to ensure compliance on NDOT-funded projects. The Department of Business and Industry, Office of the Labor Commissioner, submitted a fiscal note on the bill as introduced, indicating a cost in FY24 of approximately $184,000. Excuse me, my notes are not reading right. $184,000 FY24 and approximately $314,000 in FY25 for personnel and operating costs associated with investigating and enforcing new prevailing wage claims. There was no testimony provided in support. In opposition, there was testimony provided by the Nevada Trucking Association, Urban Consortium, and then in neutral, the Labor Commissioner provided testimony. There were no amendments on the discussed when it was presented, and fiscal staff is not aware of any proposed amendments. Regarding the NDOT fiscal note, the Department of Transportation has access to the highway fund during the interim and could receive an allocation from the highway fund during the interim if funding is needed. Regarding the fiscal note from the Labor Commissioner, it's a general fund agency. They are asking for 4 additional positions. If the committee wishes to fund those positions, it would be a general fund appropriation, again in the amount of approximately $184,000 in year 1 and $314,000 in year 2. The committee also has the option to not fund those positions and direct the agency, should these costs materialize beyond what's they're budgeted, that they could come to the IFC and request a contingency account allocation. Depending on the committee's wishes, the motion would be to do pass, to not add any funding, or amend and do pass if the desire is to add funding for the Office of the Labor Commissioner. And happy to answer any questions that the committee members might have.
I have a question. Okay. Can I ask a question then?
Yes, do you have a question, Senator Nguyen?
These 4 positions, are those full-time positions or are those part-time positions that are recommended as if we're to fund this?
Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. According to the support information that the Labor Commissioner submitted with the fiscal note, all 4 positions would be 1.0 FTE, so full-time positions. And for the committee's reference, the positions identified are 2 compliance audit investigator positions, 1 program officer position, and an administrative assistant position.
Any additional questions? Senator Gokacham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is going to be a bookkeeping nightmare, especially for road jobs. How do you determine when they're on the job, off the job, especially when you start talking aggregate and asphalt coming from adjacent states? Yeah, you'll need a few more positions than what they're already asking for.
Well, I was going to actually suggest that we pass this without the positions, that I felt like possibly the positions that were within the agency could handle this. But I would ask Senator Lang to possibly weigh in on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Roberta Lang for the record. I think they probably need a couple positions, but I think it's not going to be as much as nightmare as people think. We really narrowed down the bill to two kinds of asphalt and concrete, to two things, and so I think it will be much easier to manage.
Senator Lang, do you think that we could start this bill with 2 positions rather than 4?
I do, Madam Chair.
So, yes, go ahead, Senator Titus.
Thank
Gansert, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Frequently, when we have fiscal notes, we go back and we check with the entity, the agency again. Have we double-checked with the agency, and if they said, yes, we need 4 full-time equivalents after kind of pushing on a little bit?
Yes, I was just going to suggest that. So you're thinking, I was going to suggest that possibly we accept a motion for staff to go back and work with the agency on maybe which 2 positions they might need, and to identify the fiscal note on this.
So I wasn't sure if we had already gone back to them, because sometimes we go back to them before we end up here, because I think the first question would be, do they need the 2 or the 4, because they're doing the work, and then kind of go from there. And then if 2, then which 2? But if they
Right.
still might need 4.
Right, and I'm not sure we've had recent communication with them, but we are now here discussing whether we would not approve any, or 2, or 4. And so with that, it may be possible that, and I would have to ask Mr. Thorley, but we may want to roll this and ask the fiscal staff to get with the agency and then come back to us with an answer, so that when we vote, we know exactly what we're voting on.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator Lang.
Senator Lang for the record. So I was just curious if the committee couldn't pass it for 2 positions, and then if they needed, they could come back to IFC in the interim.
Wayne Thorley, for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. The committee has several options here. One of the options would be, as Senator Lang mentioned, would be to take a motion to approve funding for 2 positions, instruct fiscal staff to work with the agency to identify what those 2 positions would be and the associated costs. That funding for those 2 positions would be included in the official amendment that then is presented on the floor and adopted for this bill. So all the members of this committee would have an opportunity to review the amendment before voting for it on the floor. Another option, as the chair mentioned, would be to roll this, instruct fiscal staff to work with the agency, again, to identify the number of positions needed, and then come back with more current information for the committee's consideration before work sessioning the bill.
I personally would err on the side of us, due to time. I think that maybe what we should do is roll this, and maybe possibly tomorrow we can hear it.
We can reach out.
Yeah, because we're going to have several meetings tomorrow. Senator Lang, if you're okay with that? And then that way we aren't trying to maybe do an amendment on the floor. And so with that, I would direct staff to please reach out to them and have a conversation. And Senator Lang, please have a conversation with fiscal as well. And then we will roll this to tomorrow and possibly have some more information. All right, thank you very much. And with that, we will go to Senate Bill 307.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 307, the first reprint, was heard in committee on May 24th. As amended, the bill amends existing law regarding the placement of offenders in disciplinary segregation or solitary confinement. It requires the Department of Corrections to establish regulations for the use of solitary confinement as a last resort and for the shortest duration possible. Exceptions apply for offenders with serious mental illness or impairment as ordered by healthcare providers. The bill outlines procedures for reviewing and removing offenders from solitary confinement, including a multidisciplinary team and staff training. The department must submit an annual report on its use of solitary confinement, including the number of offenders and reasons for the confinement, to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on the Judiciary or the Legislature. The bill also imposes a maximum limit of 15 consecutive days for disciplinary segregation with exceptions. The bill is effective upon passage and approval for the purposes of adopting any regulations or other preparatory administrative tasks, and on January 1st, 2024 for all other purposes. The bill was presented by Senator Spearman, accompanied by the Director of the Department of Corrections. Regarding testimony and support, the Clark County Public Defender, as well as 4 other individuals, provided comment and support. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral. Regarding the fiscal impact, as introduced, the Department of Corrections indicated a fiscal impact of $12.4 million over the biennium. However, they subsequently submitted an unsolicited fiscal note indicating there was no fiscal impact from the legislation. An amendment was presented at the bill hearing to align the definition of mental disorder with the Veteran Affairs definition in Section 7, and to replace psychologist with the mental health clinician in Section 12.5, subsection 7A. And if the committee wishes to take action on the bill, an appropriate amendment would be to amend and do pass with the amendment discussed.
All right. With that, any questions on this particular bill? All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion.
I'd so move to amend and do pass.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn. Second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on this bill? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Senator Harris, would you take this particular floor statement? Oh, shoot. Okay, Senate Bill 380. 380 is where we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley again for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 380, Reprint 1, was heard in this committee on May 17th. It was presented by Senator Wynn. The measure in its first reprint version revises the existing January 1, 2024 date by which the child welfare agencies in Nevada must implement a program of extended young adult support services to the sooner of July 1, 2025, or when the Division of Child and Family Services notifies the governor and the director of the Legislative Council Bureau that sufficient funding is available. Effective date of the measure is upon passage and approval. Regarding the fiscal impact, in closing the DCFS child welfare budgets for Washoe County, Clark County, and rural child welfare, based on the recommendation of DCFS, the joint full committees did not approve the governor's budget recommendation to fund extended young adult support services to serve young adults aged 18 to 21 in the court jurisdiction and kinship guardianship programs, because only serving that subset of young adults rather than all child welfare involved young adults ages 18 to 21 would make these services ineligible for federal matching Title IV-E funding. This bill extends the implementation period by which the programs must be implemented. During the presentation on this bill, DCFS did indicate that additional funding, if the committee desires, could be added to allow the agency to begin work on the current biennium in preparation for the implementing the program of extended young adult support services. The agency testified that two temporary positions in fiscal year 2024 at a cost of $352,000 would be needed, and then additional positions, 5 in Washoe County 5 in Washoe County and 15 in Clark County would be needed in FY25. The total cost in 25 would be approximately $1.37 million. Total cost over the biennium would be $1.7 million to begin work on this program in the current biennium, rather than have the agency make a request for this funding in the budget that will be submitted to the 2025 legislature. Testimony was provided in support by Washoe County. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral. There were no additional amendments other than the amendment discussed by DCFS to potentially add a general fund to the position, general fund to their budgets to begin working on the program and start working on the state plan in the upcoming biennium. If the committee wishes to move forward with this general fund appropriation, the appropriate action would be to amend and do pass as amended to add the $1.7 million in general fund appropriations over the biennium to the Division of Child and Family Services, and happy to answer any questions the committee members might have.
All right, any questions from the committee on this particular item? Senator Wynn, did you have a comment?
It doesn't seem like anyone has any questions. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that we had removed this, but we thought we would be able to be in being able to draw down these federal funds at this point, and obviously we need a little bit more time to get to that position, and we need some additional funding for that ramp up in order to do that. So, and that's where that 1.7 total comes into play. So if anyone doesn't have any other questions for me.
Senator Harris, would you like to make a comment or the motion?
Madam Chair, I was going to make a motion if you're ready to accept one.
Please, I am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move to amend and do pass as amended with the $1.7 million.
Thank you very much. Senator Harris, and a second by Senator Neal. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes, and I will give Senator Wynn the floor statement on that particular item. All right, we will move on to Senate Bill 38 1.7.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 387 was heard in committee on May 19th. The bill requires the Administrator of the Division of Human Resource Management of the Department of Administration to periodically review the positions in the classified service of the state that require a person to hold a bachelor's degree, requires the Administrator to revise qualifications to allow a person to substitute experience or skills in lieu of a bachelor's degree when deemed necessary. The bill becomes effective on October 1st, 2023. The Division of Human Resource Management submitted a fiscal note indicating a cost of $161,144 in fiscal year 2024 and $201,115 in fiscal year 2025 for personnel and associated operating costs to implement the provisions of the bill. However, in closing the Governor's Office of Finance budget, $500,000 was approved that will be in a separate bill for the Division of Human Resource Management to perform a comprehensive classification study during the interim. So the agency has indicated that the costs associated with this particular bill are no longer necessary. The bill was presented by Senator Pazina. There were no amendments discussed, and there were no individuals testifying in support, opposition, or neutral on the bill. If the committee wishes to approve the bill today, the appropriate motion would be to do pass.
Thank you very much. And with that, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment. I told the sponsor of this bill I thought this was one of the best bills presented so far to date. I think that it will go a long way to filling our job vacancies, recognizing somebody's skills. So I appreciate this sponsor and like to move to approve.
Thank you very much, Senator Titus. And I'll take, Senator Titus, the motion. Second from Senator Nguyen. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. And Senator Titus, would you like the floor statement? All right. Thank you very much. All right. We will move on to Senate Bill 389.
Wayne Thorley again for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 389, first reprint, was heard in Senate Finance Committee on May 19th and was presented by Senators Severs-Gansert and Senator Scheibel. The bill in its first reprint version revises provisions governing crimes related to sex trafficking and requires certain entities to work together to submit a biennial report to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on the judiciary on or before July 1 of each even-numbered year. Among the other information, the report must include annual operating budgets of each entity that submits the report, all written policies adopted by the entity regarding identification of victims of human trafficking, referrals to resources and detention or citation of victims, information regarding the delivery of services to victims, information relating to the prosecution of human trafficking in Nevada, and policy recommendations for decreasing human trafficking in Nevada. Regarding the fiscal impact, the effective date, sections 9 and section 7.5 become effective upon passage and approval. And then sections 1 through 7 inclusive and 8 become effective on July 1, 2023. The Division of Child and Family Services did submit a fiscal note projecting a fiscal impact of approximately $83,000 in FY24 and $108,000 in FY25 to add one social services specialist position and associated operating expenditures to compile the data necessary to facilitate the biennial report. Also, Section 7.5 of the bill makes an appropriation from the general fund of $1 million to the contingency account for victims of trafficking. Support was provided, support testimony was provided by the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. There was no testimony provided in opposition or neutral. There were no amendments discussed at the hearing, and fiscal staff is not aware of any amendments pending. If the committee wishes to move this bill and to address the fiscal note for the one full-time social services specialist position from the Division of Child and Family Services, the general fund addition to the bill would be again approximately $85,000 in FY24 and $108,000 in FY25. Alternatively, the committee has the option to approve the bill in its current form with the $1 million appropriation to the contingency account for victims of trafficking, and instruct the Division of Child and Family Services, should resources be required, to come to the Interim Finance Committee in the interim and request those resources. Happy to answer any questions that committee members might have.
Thank you very much. Questions? Senator Nguyen.
I believe there's an amendment on there. I know that the bill sponsor is here, and it's my understanding that there was some amendment, and I was wondering.
Please go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Chair Dondero Loop and Senator Nguyen. I have proposed an amendment to this. I got a mock-up from legal that I'd be happy to share with all of you. Since the Senate Finance hearing, I had a further conversation with the Statistical Analysis Center at UNLV, which runs the CSEC database, the Child Sexual Exploitation, Children Commercial Sexual
Something.
Yeah. Kids who are being sex trafficked database, and they are willing and able to expand their database to include adults as well. And so the amendment proposes moving the obligation from it would address the same agencies and organizations, but instead of submitting a report to the interim finance or interim judiciary committee, they would all participate in the database. And then the database would provide a report, and they've indicated that they're willing and able to do that, and they do it anyway, so it wouldn't be a financial burden to them.
Sounds great. Thank
I
you
think
very
so, too.
much. Okay. Any additional questions? All right, seeing none.
That amendment could potentially.
So, Mr. Thorley, would you like to say what you just were saying?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley, Fiscal Analysis Division. So based off the testimony provided for Senator Scheibel, it appears that change could possibly remove the fiscal impact from DCFS, since they wouldn't be required to compile the report. The information would go into this database and be available. So the committee may wish to not include the funding for that position in this bill if the amendment is adopted.
Thank you. You said that much more eloquently than I would have. All right, with that, I think I will accept a motion from Senator Nguyen.
I will move to amend as conceptually stated by the sponsor today, and remove the fiscal impact from, what did you say, what agency? No, not with that position money, but the other money.
Yeah, the appropriation.
Yes.
Yeah, the appropriation of $1 million.
Without the money for that, but the money to the contingency account. Is that a convoluted motion?
I think it is, but I think we all get it. The motion is to amend and do pass, eliminating the position for 24 and 25, and continuing with the appropriation for the $1 million to the contingency account for the victims. So with that, I will accept a second from Senator Harris. And if there's any discussion, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. And Senator Gansert, would you like the floor statement for this one? Thank you very much. All right, Senator Gansert will take the floor statement, and we will go on to Senate Bill 390.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 390, the first reprint, authorizes the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, to establish and maintain a system for reporting and analysis of information on neurodegenerative diseases. The bill includes a $150,000 general fund appropriation to UNLV to carry out the provisions of the bill, which is effective on July 1st, 2023. The bill was presented by Senator Scheibel, And she did discuss an amendment during the budget hearing or the bill hearing, and that is available on all senators' desks. The purpose of the amendment is to provide for coordination between the state designated health data utility and the Department of Brain Health at UNLV, to make the registry opt-in instead of opt-out, and to clarify that the registry will be housed and managed by the Department of Brain Health within UNLV. There were 5 individuals who provided testimony in support of the bill, including the Nevada Alzheimer's Association and the Michael J. Fox Foundation. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral, and there are no fiscal impacts beyond the general fund appropriation within the bill. If the committee wishes to take action on the bill, an appropriate action would be to amend and do pass.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During the policy committee hearing on this bill, I did vote no on this. However, with the amendments and the communication and current logistics and the fiscal note removed, all of the above, I'm in hearty support of this bill. I move to approve with amendment.
Thank you very much, Senator Dr. Titus. We always enjoy having your perspective. And a second from,
Did you make a motion? Second, yeah.
she did. And a second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to note that I know Senator Scheibel had a co-presenter with her when she presented this bill, and I hope he knows I'm sorely disappointed that he missed the work session, and we'll be hearing lots about it from me in the future. Thank you, Chair.
I love that these people we call out are on the record. Perfect. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. And Senator Scheibel, I'm assuming you will want the floor statement. Okie doke. You have it. All right. We are at the end of the work session. And so here's the really good news for everybody. We have rolled 2 bills to tomorrow. I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but we have rolled Senate Bill 276 and Senate Bill 301 to tomorrow for more information. And we are also going to roll Senate Bill 505, which is on our agenda, but we are going to roll that bill till tomorrow. We had a few logistical problems, and so it's going to need to roll till tomorrow. So, with that being said, we will go to our last item on the agenda, and it's public comment. And so here in Carson City, anyone have public comment? See no one in Las Vegas. BPS, is there anyone on the phone lines?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, thank you all for your patience. Thanks to those that are here. It's the end of session, so we will have a call of the chair tomorrow, and the agenda is a TBD. So we'll get it all done. Thank you very much and have a good evening. We're adjourned.